Mr. President, Lady Saroni Jugnauth, Mr. Gandhi, Dr. Cameron, distinguished guests, teachers, students, and my new friends. I have a confession to make. After yesterday's wonderful proceedings, I went back to my room last night and I decided that the speech I prepared for you 3 months ago, I did not want to give, nor did you need to hear. So I tore it up and I wrote a new speech. So I would ask you to join me by starting. Wrote for you last night is preparing our total quality persons. And in my role as a journalist and a publisher of a magazine and someone that helps companies improve quality, I get to see every day the qualities that those businesses are looking for in young people coming up into the business world. Book written, which today remains the best-selling business book ever published in the history of the world. And the name of that book, written by Dr. Ken Blanchard several years ago, was entitled The 1 Minute Manager. Very short book. You read it in 2 or 3 hours. 11 million copies sold, 45 languages, fantastic little book. However, when I interviewed Dr. Blanchard for a magazine article I was writing, I said, Dr. Blanchard, is there anything you would change in that best-selling business book that sold millions and millions and millions of copies? And he said, yes. I got something wrong. In the book, I said, people who feel good about themselves do good work. People who feel good about themselves do good work. He said, in fact, I got the equation backwards. The equation should be people who do good work feel good about themselves. Now, how in the world does this relate to quality? It relates to quality because ultimately all work all work is done within a system, and all systems, whether they're large or small, are governed by the rules of quality. Now, what is a system? A system is the processes, the procedures, the methods, the practices, the techniques, the tools, the time, the resources, the training, all those things that go into producing a product or service is called the system. And what Dr. Blanchard taught me was that for systems that have a high level of integrity, it allows employees to do good work and therefore create a self-motivated environment because they then feel good about themselves. Dr. Deming spoke about this over and over and over and finally pounded it in to the Americans' heads that if you have quality problems, it's not because you have bad employees, it's because you have bad systems. And he said for decades, 85% of the problems are caused by the systems that we put in place, and only 15% are caused by the employees. So I offer my first point that the businesses today are looking for leaders, future leaders, that understand how to create an environment, and I propose using the tools of quality is a pretty good way to do it, to create self-motivated workforce. My second proposal to you into the organization so that we all learn from your excellent failure. But risk-taking cannot exist without failure. And Thomas Watson Sr., the founder of IBM, was the my other guru, who said success is rarely final and failure is seldom fatal. And this is from Jeff Dewar. This is my favorite quote. It's easier to get forgiveness than it is to get permission. And I say this in a light-hearted way, that sometimes risk-taking means that you need to just take that extra little risk without perhaps the full permission that you would normally feel comfortable with, knowing that companies and businesses need to see innovators and they're willing to grant forgiveness. What do you see here? What words jump out at you? How many, raise your hands please, at first glance saw opportunity is nowhere? How many saw at first glance opportunity is now here? So we have more optimists in the group. And how many of you didn't see anything? Or how many of you saw opportunity I snow here? My point is, it's simply how you look at it. It's simply how you look at it. All right. There's been a lot of talk about Kaizen. Kaizen is at the core of quality. However, companies today are asking for future leaders, you, to understand the power of breakthrough levels of improvements. In other words, not taking a gradual evolutionary approach to quality improvement, but at the same time taking a revolutionary rate of improvement and breaking through to an entirely new area. Let's play a little. Here's a typical question that happens in businesses all through India, all through the United States, all through Japan. I guarantee you this question is happening hundreds of thousands of times today. Managers are asking their staff, do you think we might be able to notch up quality a little bit this year? Is there any room for a little productivity increase? What are the key words in there that is, by the very way that the question is phrased, is limiting the ability of the organization to make a grander improvement? It's the words a bit, the words a little. And Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric, one of the world's largest corporations, this is the quote that he made at a conference that really changed my thinking. He said to his executives and managers, if you remember nothing else, remember this: business efficiencies are essentially infinite. And this is what I mean by looking at breakthrough levels of improvement and orders of magnitude levels of change rather than 0.1% or 0.01%. Harley-Davidson, the last American motorcycle company, in 1980 was on its deathbed, and they adopted an attitude of revolutionary, not evolutionary improvement, and breaking through by orders of magnitude to higher levels of productivity, quality, and efficiency. And they are still alive today, and it was only because of their ability to make that change. And this is from one of their recent ad campaigns. And that was a symbol of urgency that I will never, ever forget. All right. So how do organizations how do leaders create this symbol of urgency? Well, Lee Iacocca, when he was head of Chrysler and was turning that organization around, he said, I think it's time to reintroduce a convertible, because the American auto scene had not had a convertible for about 15, 20 years. And his engineer said, well, we can come up with a clay mock-up, we can go through the initial design, and we can have something ready for you in maybe 6 or 8 months, a prototype. And he said, no, 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 no. Take this car here, cut the roof off, I'll drive it home tonight. And he made his decision within 5 days to launch the LeBaron with a convertible feature to it, based on the experience of people waving at him because they had just simply cut the roof off and he was doing his own personal surveys. But there was that level of, that symbol of urgency that permeated throughout all of Chrysler that really began Chrysler's movement into a new era of survival. They have unfortunately, some years later, had a great deal of trouble, but in moving out of that, those symbols of urgency were critical. Mario Andretti, the famous race car driver, he said, if things seem under control, you're just not going fast enough. And I think sometimes that is a very, very good guideline. Things are really stable. Well, maybe that's a sign that we're not improving as fast as perhaps we can. How many to you today is we are looking for our future leaders to do something that is very difficult. It can be done, but it is perhaps one of the hardest things for future leaders to do. And that is to integrate quality with everything else. Here's the old paradigm. Quality is number one. I tell you, this happens in companies every day. And then a year from now, no, wait. Productivity. Productivity is the key. A couple of years later, speed, efficiency is the new priority. And my colleagues as management consultants, they know this very well. They hear it all the time. Oh, wait, stop. We have a new cost reduction program. Let's try a little experiment. Would you all please sit up nice and straight? Put your feet flat on the floor. This is exactly what happens. You say, quality, quality, and then a year later you're talking about something else, and it's just like your foot, and you have these conflicting visions that your people are hearing from you. So Federal Express, for example, they made the first change back in 1988, and they said, when Fred Smith, the founder of Federal Express, was talking quality and productivity, and his staff said, what do you want? Quality or productivity? And he said, I want both, because quality improvement equals productivity improvement. And there's some mathematical models that support why this is so. All right. And a final thought is, in India, do you talk a lot about customer satisfaction? You see ads on TV, you see ads in magazines, you see posters, you see billboards, you see slogans. Companies throughout the world are famous, are renowned for how they promote customer satisfaction. And my proposal to you is to discard customer satisfaction because it has become an old and dying way of thinking about your customers. And my question to you is, what about customer delight? What about customer surprise? What about customer bewilderment? How did you do that? And I'll give you a beautiful example. Kingfisher Airways. We want them to move to the United States and show the Americans how to run an airline. And I say that with absolute seriousness. The level of service, the price, the politeness, the cleanliness, the in-flight entertainment, we all had our own TV screen, was magnificent. And they do something an American airline hasn't done for decades. They serve you a small little drink of lime juice before the airplane takes off. And it doesn't matter if you're flying first class or business or coach. Everyone gets a refreshment before the airline takes off. Now, that man who started and those brilliant people who manage that airline, they're, in my opinion, at that third level, customer bewilderment. Because I was bewildered. I said, how do they do this? Or lastly, customer enchantment. I leave you with a final thought. Mr. President, you said very eloquently yesterday that Mauritius is a nation with many different races, religions, and ethnic backgrounds. And it was mentioned later by speakers that India is very much the same way. And I will tell you something. America is very much the same. And we are very proud of our individual differences, different religions, different ethnic backgrounds, and different races. However, what I find as I travel throughout the world is that sometimes we are so proud of those individual differences that we are afraid that if we work as a team, it will bend us, or it will twist us, or it will distort us. And without us knowing it, suddenly we will all become exact clones of one another, having lost that precious individuality. And here is my proposal to you, is that no matter how much we work as a team, we will still always be separate, distinct, and unique individuals. Thank you very much.